Okay, we're live.
Well, good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Welcome. Bienvenidos, bonjour. Here we are at our first reading of February. I'm so glad to have you here for Cultivating Voices live poetry and our new books showcase. As we celebrate Black History Month and feature poets whose books have come out during the pandemic. I'm your host, Sandy Yannone. I am the author of Votes for Women from Salmon Poetry. I thank you for joining me today from a very snowy Old Saybrook, Connecticut. Welcome to those of you joining us here live in Zoom, and to those of you watching live from Facebook. Today, it is my genuine elation. I'm going to use the word elation to welcome 4 poets whose work and experience exemplify the many journeys that poets travel to share their work. We have a college professor, we have a poetry community organizer, musician, a human rights activist publishing a debut collection at the youthful age of 70, and a high school English teacher. And of course, they are so much more. They are so much more. It is always a pleasure to introduce each of the poets, but before I do that, a little bit about Cultivating Voices live poetry. Well, Cultivating Voices live poetry began at the end of March 2020 in response to the shutdowns of in-person venues everywhere, and has developed into an intersectional, intergenerational, international reading series and poetry community with over 2,200 members worldwide. We alternate weekly readings between a live open mic and what you'll be listening to today, our new books showcase. We occasionally have a special event like our upcoming spectacular Laureate Love Fest, co-sponsored with the Olympia Poetry Network and St. Martin's University next Sunday, Valentine's Day, featuring 11 poets laureate. And I'm going to say their names now. From Washington State, Claudia Castro Luna. From Maryland, Grace Cavalieri. From across the pond, Poetry Ireland's poet in residence, Catherine Ann Cullen. From Vermont, Chard de Nord. From California, Charles Flowers. From Alberta, Canada, Lisa Mulrooney. From Oregon, Kim Stafford. From Texas, Carmen Tafola. From Arizona, Laura Tohey. And also from Washington, the former Seattle Youth Poet Laureate, Azura Tayabji, with special video performances by US Poet Laureates Ted Kuzer and Joy Harjo. Well, now to today's poets. Equally as spectacular as what you will see next week if you choose to register to join us for our special Zoom webinar, our Laureate Love Fest. I'll introduce each before they read, and then I'll return at the end with a few more announcements. Well, first reading today is a poet whose work I have absolutely come to admire like immensely since I first heard her read on Cultivating Voices live. And I admit unabashedly that I try to go hear her read whenever I see that she has a reading and whenever she's on the bill somewhere. And someday I know I will get to fulfill a new dream of mine, which is to hear her read in person. Tamara J. Madison is an author, poet, editor, and instructor. Her critical and creative works have been recorded, produced, and published in various albums, journals, magazines, exhibits, podcasts, and anthologies. Her most recent poetry collection, Threed, This Road, Not Damascus, was published by Trio House Press, and it is a book for every age and every year. Thanks to Trio House for putting this book into the world. It is my great joy to welcome Tamara.
Hey, Sandy. Thank you, thank you, thank you for that intro. Wow. Before I say anything, I want to repeat what I said during our introductions. Thank you for honoring the book, that dirty four-letter word, BOOK, the book, right? Um, with people like you honoring the book, with us honoring the book, hopefully it will not get lost in the shuffle. So thank you for an actual book showcase. I have the book with me. Here you go. It is Threed, This Road, Not Damascus. It is absolutely beautiful and I love it. Thank you to Trio House Press. My publisher is here. She was also an amazing editor, Tabney's. So thank you very much for being here as well. I'll get started right away because I know we have a big program. Let's see. The only thing I think you need to know is that this book is a little bit speculative because there is a persona called the three-breasted woman in the book. So some of the pieces that you will hear are in three-breasted woman's voice. Other pieces that you will hear are the voice of the speaker or the poet that goes through a bit of a rite of passage with her, okay? All right, so let's get started. The first piece is Wombing. Three-breasted woman shares her birth story. And in the seventh hour of the eighth day, the universe poured herself into herself, and I was born. Ripple of riveting wind, lotus in my left hand, machete long as I am tall in my right. Upon my knees I kissed and whispered life into the womb of death. He trembled in my protective arms, bursting into droplets of light. Smiting lies with one righteous blow, I gathered the keening cries of moaning multitudes upon my back. I nursed them on goddess milk, swaddled them in sacred scrolls, raised them into shouts of jubilation and victory. My own I am, infinitely conceiving. I am simply she who swallowed the sun whole to birth bejeweled shadows. Now time, millenniums after that seventh hour and eighth day, I long to lay my weapon down, dance with lotus in my hair and you in my embrace. I did not come here just to fight. I came here to love you. Wombing. There are a few poems in the book where three-breasted woman talks to King James. And I do mean the King James of the Bible. And then there are also times where the poet or the speaker speaks to King James as well. And this piece is called Rebuttal. Three-breasted woman confronts King James. 1. Who can find a virtuous woman, for her price is far above rubies? Proverbs 31:10, King James Version. Really, James, a virtuous woman a price? Any woman a price? A piece? Maid, trade, and enslaved, wet nurse, cook, cunt, trophy, a price? This life, damnation and dowry, rubies, gold, a dollar, pound, yen, my hair, your glory, my hips, the hills you climb for the right price. James, King Almighty, even your queen for a pence, must you buy everything? Yeah. In honor of my ancestry, I want to share this piece called Prophecy, Maternal Lineage 2. And I have to say, because I know there are a lot of writers here, actually, while I was working on the manuscript, I think even with the press, this picture was actually found. And I don't even know if I told you that or not, Tave, but my sister found this picture and shared this picture with me. And I knew that this poem needed to be in there. So it's called Prophecy, Maternal Lineage 2 for Melinda. On the back of the photograph, one of my foremothers wrote, "This is Melinda." She knew one day, a century later, I would need to find you, framed in sepia, statuesque and fierce, eyes locked into the camera. You long saw me coming. Grandmama kept you hidden, fearing you'd blotch her milky skin, mar her Christian countenance. Uncle says you were native, corn cob pipe smoking Indian. Others say you Moor, descendant of the originals who first tamed Turtle Island. Textbooks and scripture twisted your legacy into caricature. I say, the way you stand there in your Sunday dressed best, staring across generations at me, daring me to be free. Miss Melinda, madam, you were never anybody's slave. From Melinda. Poet's Arrival. And these are all from the first section of the book. The book is in actually 3 sections. Poet's Arrival. Ripped the foreskin of my father's dreams, thrust from ragged wombs, nursed on battered breasts, whispered from my mother's severed tongues. Here I come. Here I come. Blood rush, honed bone, swaddled in thorny brine, brimstone my bed, my pillow a pillar of salt, my father's muffled moans, my mother's shrieking eyes, my lullaby. I want to move over to the second section of the book. And I want to share a piece called Manifesto, the 10 Commandments. And for fellow writers who are here, I want to say this actually started off as a workshop assignment, right? And it developed into this piece, Manifesto, the 10 Commandments from part 2. 1, be a virgin, at least appear pristine. Though his hands be dirty, he solicits purity. Wait until marriage. 2, be alluring prey, prize of the hunt. Act as though you enjoy the chase. He fiends the rush. Don't call him, let him call you. 3, feed him. As you siphon droplets of soup and ration crumbs from pennies, your plate, be prepared for his voracious appetite. Who wants a woman who can't cook? 4, be unaged, though seasoned wine. He requires beauty for his drunken pleasures. He can afford to age, fatten, wrinkle, gray. You cannot. Keep yourself up. 5, be sweet always, always. He craves sweetness. Should you become tart or bitter, he will find his sweets someplace else, gorged to the point of decay. No one likes a female boss, butch, or bitch. 6, prepare for market crash. He covets all resources and wealth. Keep a secret bank account. 7, protect him. Hide your menses and afterbirth. It makes him squeamish, reminds him of his mortality and your power. He desires omnipotence. Never let him know you're on your period. 8, worship him. Handle your intellect brilliance with utmost modesty. He craves dominion over everything. Girl, let him think it was his idea. 9, feign fragility. Manifest his destiny. His masculinity always trumps your femininity. Never, never emasculate him. 10, be accountable, even when it is not your responsibility. If you refuse such sacrifice, the world will end. It's Eve's fault. Thank you. Poet's Consummation for Kaba. A love poem. Crushed the stone tablets of commandments, their dust blown to higher winds. I searched the darkest caves, made tombs my home, deciphered the writings on the walls to find you. Only in my stillness did you arrive. At last, I offer my scarred wombs, my loosed tongues, my asymmetry, my threed vision. Beloved, within me, there is no place you may not enter. Wash belly for Afriel. Afriel is actually in the dictionary of angels' names, and Afriel is known to be the angel who protects children as well as protects the inner child. And this was written for my youngest child, Wash belly. I once flew with the angel inside my belly, his wings fluttering, waves of amniotic sea. Now we swim the abyss, superheroes our quest, our nemesis a thrill ride. Runs in our tights, capeless, girded with mammy-made gadgetry. Together we roam the streets of Gotham, raining kryptonite on lanternless nights. His wings wilted, dusty, my hair white, belly dry. And from the last section of the book, I want to go back to the voice of Three-Breasted Woman. And this is one of my favorites from her. And it's called Catechism, Three-Breasted Woman Teaches. Foolish children ask me, can you feed multitudes with loaves and fish, convert water to wine, tiptoe the sea? I stiffly hold my tongues, thinking, the nations I shat, bushels I fried. Besides, who needs fish, wine, or floating feet when threed across dimensions fly? Poet's Resurrection. Uh, Undaunted, no longer dangling bait or adornment. My bruises, now the sweetest, virgin tears, my tea. A hardy string of serpent fangs, my belly beads. I am freed from the clench of Adam's teeth. The kiss of lightning makes my marrow hum, bursts my bush to sweating flames. I shade the sun, confess the moon, curtsy my king or rip him open, shave my lion bald, feast upon his roar, leave him cleave his aching silence. I dare to open my eyes as my threed rise, leak my cleavage's need to poet language lush enough to sweep the knees of Jesus, toe whipping air. I resuscitate wind. This dance I do, this dance. And the last piece I want to share is partly from the title of the book, and it's called The Road Not Damascus. Upon my return to she, burn my bones beneath the never weeping tree, sprinkle the ashes at its roots, gather my loved ones and hold each other closer. Husband, do tell them I bore the glinting silver of my locks as bejeweled crown, my lips painted a blues moan magenta, my dimpled calabash a Hottentot throne. I shat nations and barren and defiled legacies. Sisters, gently remind them I laughed at Lucifer's charms, flirted with angels, seduced even the dead with my wine. Daughters, sons, rhythmic thunder robed in lightning, sweating pearls of spring rain, remind each other often. Tell my generations while laughing beneath the never weeping tree, we be threed. Thank you. Thank you, Sandy.
Every time, a revelation. Every time I hear these poems, I'm speechless. I'm daunted. I am humbled. Until next time. Whew. I transition to another poetry ambassador of different stripes and of immense consequence. I had the genuine pleasure to attend the Calling All Poets series for the first time last week. I've had my eye on it for many weeks since the pandemic, although the series has been going for 22 years. And I can see why, just from the first time I attended, the fantastic community that our next poet has cultivated in the Hudson Valley, New York. Mike Jurkovic, a 2016 Pushcart nominee, has had poetry and musical criticism appear in over 500 magazines and periodicals worldwide, unfortunately, with little reportable income. Keyword reportable. We won't go there. Mike's full-length collections include American Mental, which I hope you're going to show the cover because I love this book. I don't have it with me. There we go. I love this book cover. American Mental from Luchador Press 2020. Blue Fan Whirring from Narala Press 2018. President Calling All Poets from New Paltz, New York Press. Mike's reviews appear online at All About Jazz and Lightwood, and he was the Tuesday night host of Jazz Sanctuary on WOOC 105.3 FM in Troy, New York. And he says he loves Emily most of all. Would you please welcome Mike Jurkovic?
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Sandy. Thanks, Don. Tamara, I got to follow that now. That was some strong stuff. Thank you. I'll be reading a few things from American Mental. And this came out, I received a box of them about 2 weeks after the pandemic shut down New York. So I was just in time. And this is called Because Maybe. Live long enough and the plot becomes apparent. This is the only way it could turn out. The fire-roasted eggplant flatbread is running late. The edible hasn't kicked in for the movie. The wine lacks a certain weight, and the folks at the next table are ready to strangle each other. Live long enough and life costs you an axle. Love hits the wall more often than not, and the rubbernecking results in a muscle sprain and hyphenated discs. The downward arc of history crashes on your lawn. Corporate names become your own. Surly asides become convention. Live long enough and people implore you to pray for them. Pray they be rid their cancer and conceit. And you do because maybe they know something you don't. That short of the nuclear option, what the hell else is there? Strafe downtown, torch town hall, attack the Capitol, increase the Valium and Xanax. Live long enough and the choice becomes abuse or entertainment. Your dynamic points of interest dull. The sand becomes listless. Tariff and sanctions scintillate. You come to terms. Live long enough and you tire of doing this, that, every little fucking thing. But maybe that's how this shitstorm passes. In service to someone in need, to someone mistaken as foreign, to someone you once saw as a stranger, a careening penitent inclined to believe. I'm really bad with these little stupid Post-its, so if I get in my own way, please excuse me. This is the poem that really, this is one of two poems that really started the book, and this is called Marty's 81. Marty's 81 has a parched post-pneumonia cough and the shits from diverticulitis. He's got a blood clot in his leg he can't afford the Bixapan for, because you can't survive on a pension and Social Security. Lives with his daughter in a shitlorn town in the Hudson Valley that everyone struggles to avoid unless you're driving through in a funeral procession, because his third wife, Peg, a beautiful girl, a very, very smart girl, took to the booze and the opiates, then took the old farmhouse they'd rehab somewhere in Shitlorn, Pennsylvania. 28 years. He counts. 28 years. Played Carnegie Hall as a child and sang doo-wop with the Mafia boys back there in Bensonhurst. Bought his first vet in '59, a turquoise baby that stole your breath while Sal the Snake stole your wallet. Shows me pictures on his cell phone. His whole life in his hands, in the hands of strangers. The old stone house he restored with Joan, his second wife, who had five kids and took on my 3. Plays piano for St. Margaret's down the road in Shitlorn at the intersection where the light don't work. The 62 Corvette, the 65. People were worth something back then, he rasps, the cold phlegm seizing his pipes. Shows me his cousin Maury's place up in Saratoga. Raises horses and runs a marina on Manhasset Bay. Maury's always been the smart one, he swears, scraping his lungs. More pictures of grandkids and horses, cars and pianos. His fix-it shop in Shitlorn where he still fixes vintage stereo equipment. I take in a piece here and he says for pocket money. I tell him about my Macintosh with the fried left channel. Here's my email. Send me some pictures, maybe I can help you out, he says. Served in the service, but that don't mean shit no more. His son's got his Hunter Green 74 vet until he can get a place of his own. Pictures of his daughter's daughter who just turned 4. I'm gonna start her on scales when this cough's all gone. Any day now, he swears. We all leave who we were to become who we are. We all leave who we were and become who we are with the noose not far behind, nipping at our heels. We all leave who we were and become who we are behind mountains, like love always does. We all leave who we were and become who we are, escaping down streets where the fate of fever and skin tingles in the rain. Our sixth sense seeking tequila. We all leave who we were and become who we are and threaten revolution, then watch from the sidelines as the oil men fight back. Sandy had spoken about the community we've built at CAPS, and I have to admit this poem was written as an experiment with two other great poets in the Hudson Valley, Raphael Kosick and Will Nixon. We were trading lines back and forth, and that's where this one came from. We do some of that around. We each try to trade off on each other's things. There's a CD that accompanies this book, and this is the blues track on it, and it's called Topeka. I never did get back to Topeka. What was the point? There were pipe bombs in every direction, just like here, up and down, forward, back, horizon to horizon, moon to moon, and grandma's down 8 fingers and falling into her chili and chips as Pop swears at Quick Drawer, and little Lena gets off the bus and walks into the dimwit, gimlet gin house that only the brave defy, which is why I'm here, hiding behind happy hour, my religion lost and my faith failing fast. Each dark minute hauling itself forward, each towards the water, towards the morsel, towards the dead legends I call my own and number myself among. We jump off in droves, the chasm yawning, the darkness rushing by. Just grow soldiers, they say, reminded me a lot of what I heard back there in Topeka, where prairie winds blow rust and water mains burst, just like that. Just like everywhere else neglected by its people, dismissed as a political problem, when in fact it's cultural, a question of folklore and the lack thereof. No present, no past, no holds barred when it comes to the demise and the dollars it makes. Squalor, contempt, a breed I've indebted myself to, a ruined lineage, just like Topeka. Thank you. This is called Scholar's Hence. It's an apocalyptic feel, isn't it? As we carry our shit like it makes any difference in the rocket's red glare. Conventional, thermal, cellular, take your pick, place your bets, either way we're gonna fall. Leaving it to the Scholar's Hence to examine our umbrage, our shit. Our shit. It's always our shit left behind, no matter how vengeful the flood, how concussive our personal weaponry, our shit in all the sermons, our shit in the channels dedicated to it, our shit and the lack thereof. I kind of wasn't going to read this one, and then when I realized that a month ago yesterday we had that whole nonsense go on in Washington, I was like, well, why not? And this is called It Was a Nice Day. You never walk shitlord the same way twice, and that's a great relief for this clan of criminal lovers whose teeth don't match, whose peevish complaints annoy me, leave me unattended. I only blew up the building because I could. It was a nice day. I only blew up the building because my back was up against the wall and I needed some recreation. Because I wanted to. I had to. Because the line between gang and government is gone. Thank you. This is, I wanted this book to be a spotlight or a thumbnail or whatever the heck you want to call it of the last 4 or 5 years, whatever the heck it is. But, and I was listening to the radio one day and they were actually, I don't remember where it was, but they were actually, it was a commercial on there for a gun shop and ammunition and all this stuff. And this is where this poem came from. And it's called 2 Wives Ago. I've only been married once for 30 years, so, but this is called 2 Wives Ago. It's a beautiful thing. Stockpiled, vacuum sealed, purchased a little each payday for the last 15 years and 2 wives ago. Neither could see my reasoning, so I gave up trying. You can only serve yourself in the end. Everyone else drains your supplies. Dated, rotated, each 50-millimeter can checked monthly for corrosion. In this room, mostly cornmeal and 50-pound bags of sugar. A tunnel to the highway, shelved floor to ceiling with corn and tuna. In this room alone, my water. I'm gonna read one more from here and then do a couple of new ones and then move on to the next wonderful poet. And this is called The Irreversible Future. And this and Marty is really where this book started. We oohed and awed at the 64 World's Fair and the droids that would take away our work and give us more time with the kids. More time to smoke, to read and watch, to drink and fuck some more. Raw metallic arms did the work of 50 men without unions and overtime. Hulking, huge brains sprayed pretty light and reasoned all our equations. The atom had no blowback. The wonderful world of chemistry was just one pill away. We marveled at modems and picture phones. Big oil gave us the dinosaurs. The happy plastic family heartened us all. Different trips, same monkey, Disney ruled the air. Weather stations under the Arctic ice would correct the world's climate. The cities of the future had no ghettos that we could see. They were less sad and frantic than those to come. No one homeless, no one alone, jetpacks. Ooh. Space stations. Ah. Deserts were farms where the dark robots picked the fruit. The Mick was there, I saw him. Amid the supercars, the Kennedys, without Jack, for the darkness did just dawn. We oohed and awed, zipping on the monorail, carrying our radiated nickels and dimes. Or were they pennies? I forgot all about the poor. We explored the mysteries of a woman's mind. Wisconsin cheese. 3D led to 4G, led to 5. They say we don't need 6. We oohed and awed and became. If you'll allow me to just do two new ones, I guess. They've recently been published, but I'll be damned if I can remember where. Autumn's Blue Rain was just published in Jerry Jazz Musician. Right before they shipped me off to ports I inhabit still, Mary from sophomore year, who died this year from cancer, of course, told me, as if divining autumn's blue rain drop by sad wet drop, the sinner resides in the holy. She always said so much with so little, artist that she was. And as I was swept into battle both here and abroad, I carried her words with me beyond the yearbook, the goodbyes and so longs of well-meaning friends, those who wished me gone, and family too. Then came the massacre at Hue, and well, here I am now, 2 doubles down, awash in my clouds of logic, wondering why some make it and some don't, and how many bodies make up that bridge. How many Marys have to die to satisfy our penchant for regret, as autumn's blue rain chills graves, ancient, barren, freshly dug. I want to thank you all, and I'm going to close with this one. It's one of my favorite people, and it's called Gracie. There's a grammatical error up ahead that will change everything. How and why, I don't know, because off the top of my head, each mad essay must cast doubt on the one before, or at least lend a hand to its aberrant cause, which makes for unsure seasons, rising seas, and a lack of wonder. And I know you all have better places to be, like Dunkin' Donuts or debtor's jail. So I'll try to get to what I'm getting at before I get to where I'm going, which was to talk about Gracie Allen, who knew today's postage stamp was yesterday's head of state, that a country of checks and balances relies mostly on checks, and that you never place a comma where God has put a period. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Mike. And everybody, truly, if you have not been to CAPS yet, put it on your calendars when you see it come across your Facebook feed. Mike and his pals have been putting on a good show for 22 years. And what a great reading, and thank you. Congrats on that book. As I said, I love it. And I put some info in the chat, and feel free to, Tamara and Mike, feel free to put information in the chat about books as well, if you have anything else.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
What what a way to make those poems come alive, the delivery. And I can still feel my throat scratching from that first poem. Wow.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, what an honor it is to be here today to celebrate new books in general. But today, there's a little extra sparkle in the air. Because today, we're celebrating the debut collection. We're going to be hearing from the debut collection from Iris Gersh, who reminded me that she is 70 years young, publishing her debut collection. Well, to you, Iris, I say, brava, dear poet, brava. And I'm really looking forward to hearing these poems. A long time to wait for them. Well, Iris Gersh has lived in Albuquerque since 2005, where she is an ally for immigration rights and social justice causes. An MFA from Florida International University, Iris has taught widely, as well as serving on the board of the New Mexico Poetry Society. Her poems and stories have appeared in the Packing House Review, Ekphrastic issue, the Alembic, and Karamu, as well as Poetry Playhouse's publications. Those are our good friends, Jules Nyquist and John Roche over at Poetry Playhouse Publications. And also in the Fixed and Free anthologies, 2014 and 2018, over there with Billy Brown, another great iconic figure there in Albuquerque. Iris is a contributor to Missing Persons, Reflections on Dementia from Beatlik Press. And in 2019, she was recognized by the National Federation of State Poetry Societies for her leadership in youth poetry programs and was the feature poet at Chatter Sunday's 600th show in March 2020. Hey, let's give a rousing round of applause to Iris Gersh.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Sandy, for that pre-tribute before you hear the poems. But anyway, yeah, everything's a long time coming, I feel. And that, I think a famous writer said, we're still every age we've been. And that means we can recycle ourselves from time to time. This first poem is called Crazy Women. A friend of mine, more manic than depressive, bought $300 of marine equipment and never owned a boat. Another woman, while in a car with me from California to New Mexico, sucked straight from a can of processed cheese, the empty nozzle sound driving me crazy on the 6-lane highway, and crazier still when she told me to pull over so she could meditate. In the south end of Boston, pre-gentrified, drunk women draped over parked cars, figures among shrouded in snow Victorian lamplights. They talked to themselves or anyone who would listen. Could it take much to go over that edge? I remember thinking then. Some of their mouths twitched as if they had so much more to say. They contorted their hands as if they might never touch again. Some disappeared like Eve's footsteps when she grabbed the half-eaten apple and ran away from the rib giver. Crazy women no longer seem outsiders, isolated wisps atop mountain peaks. Sometimes now I visit their world, a place without geography, not unknowingly, not unwillingly, just to twitch, contort, and disappear. In the Catskills the 50s, my sister and I swing on the hammock, ignoring our father's curses when a pot of corn boils over. Corn gathered that morning from the field behind our backyard, then husked in strong pools. Traffic whizzes by on Route 209. From New York City, green and white buses of Hasidic Jews dressed dark, warm, escaping to bungalow companies. Other buses of blacks in summer whites, cool, en route to Peg Leg Bates Motel, where my cool brother and his friends sneak into. Prison workers across the road pick different corn, other families' meals, and I imagine they watch us plan to get in our house at night while we sleep. Our luxury of self-imposed stillness, my sudden fear never voiced, is broken now by my mother's call. Come inside, set the table, and leave your father alone. I arrange lilac flowers in a Chinese vase, soft order, the only noise dogs barking at an itinerant on the road, the setting sun passing his shadow across the now empty hammock. Happenings, the 60s. My brother made 20 gray concrete bowls out of plaster of Paris, pasted on our family name, drew one arrow for each mile leading to our house. We cruised out early one morning and placed the bowls in prominent road corners, 4455, up on 209. Gersh's college friends descended like so many brightly feathered birds, some carrying bottles of wine, others bongos, guitars, poetry books. My father stood on the highway, directed cars to park on the side, away from our house. A sporty Fiat bypassed him and slid into the garden, squashing lilies of the valley, newly bloomed. This is one time I remembered he checked his anger. Cauldrons of corn boiled on the brick grill, freshly picked from the field we rented to the Mahonies. A couple made out by the lilac trees till my father shooed them back to the house where Bob Dylan blasted from the record player. My brother appeared only to disappear. Maybe he figured once he spread the bulls on the country roads, he could let the rest happen. My mother told the complaining neighbors to please come to her son's next happening, that it might become a family tradition. Thanks. Reverence. Reverence for the way the dancers at the Kiwa Pueblo shape their corn rattles, for the way their families eat Twinkies, their brown bodies gleaming in the fall sun, for the way the women wear tablitas, turquoise three-pointed wooden headpieces and long velvet skirts, bells jingling with each step they take. For the way chants circle the world, from the Gregorian chants of the monks to the salsa rhythms, to the davening prayers the cantors sing, to songs we hear now, sung by men in powwow drum circles. For the way we join our fingers together, we do not get on our knees or enter houses of prayers. Instead, we open our mouths, tap our feet. For the way we let the corn source, the ground's blood as it runs through and underneath, We let the source enter us, an unending pulse. For the mesa where the sun sinks behind purple mountains, in another place so we can sleep, sounds of drums coursing through our blood, the desire to stop asking so many questions leaving us. This is a place called Casa San Isidro. Poets and community gather on a hot July day in honor of Simon Ortiz and in respect for the cultures that built and lived at Casa San Isidro, formerly the Gutierrez House in Corrales. Dr. Ward Allen Minga employed members of the Acoma tribe he had befriended. It's called the Gala Room. We are cooled by the floor's large shale slabs from the Pueblo, dusted with cottonwood's cotton, not unlike dirty white fluffs of sheep's wool on the table in the weaving room next door. Adobe walls are almost a foot in thickness. Vigas and latillas differ in shapes and sizes. Latillas merge into shapes of the thunderbird, up and down and sideways. If the ceiling were broken by summer hailstorms, lightning bolts would cross the thundering sky. The courtyard must have been the Minge's delight as it cools down in the evening, just as the cicadas begin their incessant chirping, a constant refrain of life, a staccato alert. Wake up, wake up, wake up. We congregate in the courtyard, at ease and energized by sharing in the special history of Casa San Isidro. Acoma shale, courtyard's shade keep us centered and cool. Okay, moving along to Greece. Some people could say was a very, very important part of my life, and it's true. In the taverna, this is called like a Gregorian chant. In the taverna, safe at our table, my boyfriend and I raise glasses of Retsina, salute men at other tables. One man, his black hair dusted with snow, sings, his cavatina filling the room. Another answers. Three join the chorus swell, till a round of voices asks, answers, echoing monastic ceremonies. The tavern keeper pulls out two grills of roasted lamb from the fire pit, fills tin jugs with wine, pushes a log into the fire. It is hushed now as we eat and drink. Witness to something sacred, my salvaged thoughts unraveled. I lapse into the secular. Imagine the pleasure of licking with my wine-sweetened tongue the lips of the youngest man alone at a faraway table. Imagine unwinding sheep-colored skeins that sit in the lap of the tavern keeper's wife, my claws newly sharpened. Imagine my voice joining the men's, my song the blues, my company wailing guitars and harmonica riffs. Then, frightened by this private irreverence, I stand by the open window, look down at the village clock, whose face snow softly covers, the only number visible, 1. Do I still have time? I must. Okay. Stripping the olives in your mother's village. After lunch, the women workers separate olives, branches, and leaves left on the stroma spread on the ground. Legs stretch out in front of me next to your squatting mother. I raise my head to see you high in another laden tree. I am as bare as the tree when you finish stripping its olives. The small red rake works well. I'm glad I have stayed this harvest, the first time I feel useful, as if I am at last giving back to your family, who even now helps me lift heavy burlap bags. I smell lamb we grilled for lunch, its burnt odor carried by the ocean breeze. On my tongue remains the bitter taste of Retsina we drank. My hands are stained purple with juice of bruised olives. The priest, your cousin, arrives, taking care his black robe skirts broken stones scattered in piles. Your mother and aunt, their raw words slicing the air, ignore his pleas for peace. You tell me this is how it is every year, the two sisters fighting. Stones no longer serve as a boundary between each woman's property. Next to theirs, our quarrels seem tame. I move away to sit alone in a sun-shimmered spot. Knowledge of life's continuity replenishes me. I am no longer the stripped olive tree. Your calling my name sounds tender in the olive grove. It is quiet now. The women move to the next tree, spread out the neck blankets that will catch the falling olives. Before you climb the ladder again, we kiss, our lips touching softly like the distant sounds of sheep bells. Sto kato kato pios miasate. In the end, who cares? Two brooms, a yellow soppy mop balanced against the black gate we painted. Grills with residue of two tough lamb hang on the daphne tree, bay leaves shriveled. A pitchfork leans into an unsprung mattress. My sister's bleached white shorts hang on the clothesline alongside large balls of Mazikra cheese, almost ready. Garlic bunches are strung from a pole. What's steady here? What doesn't lean or hang or need to be strung? It is quiet, with only the sound of wind through the cypresses. A few heavy staphylia plop onto the flagstone. Blackbird's wings flutter as the birds sweep to pick up the grapes. A door slams, meaning he's home, and the muscles in my back tense. If I move, I feel pain. What do you want? He asks. He acts like his reading my emotions matters. Sometimes I answer, I want to go to the beach. Louise says she needs a nap. Chickens he forgot about in his bag squawk, indignant for being forgotten. Their hysteria catches till tears roll down our eyes. Later, we make a fire indoors, and cedar logs sputter and groan. Do I have time for two more? Diomas? Yes? Okay. Archaeological love, a pantoum. Discarded love. Look at the source. Potsherds of no archaeological value. Shards in my garden, broken, smashed, formless pottery. Look at the source. Potsherds of no archaeological value. Unglazed, unfinished pieces, broken, smashed, formless pottery. Throwaway love. Unglazed, unfinished pieces, lovers we never honored, throwaway love, yet hard to throw away. Lovers we never honored, shards in my garden, hard to throw away. Is it possible to explore other archaeological sites? And my last poem is Ouzo Driven. I wish I had some right now with a little plate of mezes, but hey. Ouzo Driven. For my brother Bill, who always told me, take no shit from anyone, even him. It's longer than sundown here in Sofico. Are there bigger concerns? Or is it only about making a salad or asking my man what he needs? A tribute to ends of days, onions, cigarettes, fire, a woman ouzo driven, who has fattened her nerves, has grown tired of serving. A woman who is ouzo hung over has no cares. She can finally leave. When she does, after 8 years, she mourns wasted passion, the jealousy, the dragging out of time, when she might have forgotten or at least forgiven him. She speaks to her man as if he stands in front of her. She says that maybe what I'm really missing is your country, its light, its olive smell, its hardness, and not you at all. Thank you. Can you unmute?
Ouzo driven. Ouzo driven.
Oh,
Amazing. I could feel the vividness of Greece. I could in those olives. And
Oh.
Kate, my good friend Kate, talked about how, you know, I'm sitting here in a literal snowstorm outside my window, and I felt like I was right there in the Southwest from the imagery. So thank you for giving me the warmth of that beautiful, beautiful part of the country and those
welcome.
olives. I'm Sicilian, so I particularly like the olive.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations on your new book, folks. In the chat, Iris Gersh. In the chat, we'll have the link in just a moment again for her new collection, 1,000 Questions. And who doesn't appreciate questions? I love questions far more than the answers. Maybe that's poetry's prime directive, I think. That kind of exploration. Thank you, Iris. Well, my friends, our final poet today. I was telling everybody, I love these new book showcases so much. I love doing them. Well, it has been such a joy for me to get to know just through this virtual space and through email and Facebook, our final reader for today. I reached out to her after I saw that she had read with another poet that I really love from Cultivating Voices, Maxima Khan. And what I admire so much about Carla Cherry is her prolific nature. She writes steadily, while educating the next generation of poets as a high school English teacher. And I don't know about you, but I wouldn't be here on Zoom today with all of you if it wasn't for my high school English teacher. So I have great respect, honor, reverence for what you do. And so glad that you're here today to be reading from your new book. I'm sorry, it's the only one I have in my possession right now. Look at this, Stardust and Skin. Oh, when I got it in the mail, I opened it. Well, Carla Cherry has taught in New York City public schools since 1996. Her poetry appears in publications such as Anderbo, Enola Review, The Random Sample Review, Memory House, Bop Dead City, Anti-Heroin Chic, 433, The Racket and Raising Mothers. Carla is currently studying for her MFA in creative writing at the City College of New York with another of my absolute favorite Trio House Press writers, David Groff. Some of you know David Groff here in the room. Carla has written 5 books of poetry. And as I mentioned, her latest is Stardust and Skin. Would you please give a starry, starry welcome to Carla Cherry?
Thank you, Sandy, for that beautiful introduction. And I'm so happy to be here. And Tamara and Mike and Iris, amazing work. Congratulations. So my book, Stardust and Skin, came out of a project I did with Peggy Robles Alvarado. She's a Bronx-based poet, and she brought a small group of women together for healing exercises about insecurity that we all shared and needed to grapple with. And so that's where my book, Stardust and Skin, came from. So I'm going to start with the poem Cracked. I mostly keep my man, our thing, to myself. But sometimes I wish other people could see the gratitude in his kisses across the span of my shoulders, the small of my back. Hear the roll of bass in his "You're beautiful," the sexy, the "all sugars," when all I have done is stride from the bed to the dresser. I know I am more than just this body, but it is dangerous that I say, yeah, right. Oh, please, I'm fat, more than thank you. I wish I could fall in love with the very thing holding me all together. Thank you. Okay, so the next poem I'm going to read is called Waylaid. He jumped into my path with a tube of sea scrub in his hand. Come look. I'm sorry, but I'm on a budget. He gently took my hand. He was young, handsome, brown as a coconut husk. Smoothed the scrub onto my forearm. It tickled in a way that made me wish my hair weren't turning gray. He guided me toward a small bin and rinsed me off. See how clean and soft? It's on sale, he said. It had a light citrusy scent. I agreed to buy a box. And what are you doing about your face? He presented me with a box of facial cleanser. It will brighten your dark spots and tighten your pores. I walked away with 4 boxes of skin products. Had I not been feeling bad about being blemished and sweaty from the gym, I might have thought to say, it is the rare diamond that doesn't have a flaw, and people still buy them. Thank you. Okay, so this poem is called Lost. Mama said I was walking at 6 months and talking at 9 months because I always knew I had a place to go and much to say. Learned to read at 2. Careened down hills on my big wheels. Waved my arms and hooted like an owl when my teachers wanted answers. Wrote poems and asked if I could recite them in front of the class. Let my hair out and flung it while I danced in front of mirrors. Told a boy that called my sister a nigger that we were Black and damn proud of it. Called myself Lady C when I thought I could rap. Didn't let scraped knees and bottom bouncing falls off my skateboard keep me from learning how to pop a wheelie. I had a wad of confidence tucked in my back pocket every day. As bigger egos with taller bodies, stronger fists surrounded me, shouted me down. Had throngs that we used to call back. Fearing black eyes and torn out hair, I started slouching and mumbling, my eyes fixed on the ground. Thank you. This next one is called Sap. Thwap! Kia had pulled and snapped my bra strap one too many times. The invisible dams I built in my eyes threatened to burst. No one was coming to rescue me from the lunchroom. Then 3 more hours of sitting at a desk in front of Kia, so I had to save myself. I can't breathe, I gasped at one of the school aides. She took me to the office. I huffed, cried, and sniffled as I begged my mother to pick me up. You're getting germs all over my phone, the secretary snapped, handing me a tissue and alcohol to wipe down the receiver. Mother couldn't leave her desk. She called Aunt Laverne, who sent Aunt Marguerite's home health aide to pick me up. And even as my heart and breath stopped racing, I mimicked hyperventilation until I was sitting on Aunt Verne's pink sofa, wishing I was one of those girls who had a big sister a head taller than Kia, who was a head taller than me, the second tallest girl in our 4th grade class. She would put her hands on her hips, swing her right finger in Kia's face, and press it against her forehead. You better leave my sister alone. So Kia could sit at our white lunchroom table with tears clogging her throat. If only I had a big sister to hug me and lift my chin. You better not let nobody hold your self-esteem hostage. So I wouldn't have to wait on Kia's torso to align with her arms and legs, for her mother to let her hair out of her braids and frame her pretty face, smile hello at me when we, at different schools, bumped into each other on the block. And I'd wonder if she was now one of the girls the popular boys chased to squeeze their butts, or if she, like me, was swerved around while the chased ones giggled and I pretended not to care. Thank you. This next poem is called War on Canvas. My high school graduation picture is retouched proof of what I could have been. In it, instead of she would be pretty if, my almond eyes are portals of beauty. My smile glimmers like sunlight on a lake at high noon. My skin is the clear, smooth, medium brown it was until I was 9. At 10, T-zone. Many eruptions on forehead, temples, cheeks. Sole sufferer in my circle of friends. One day I ran up to my father who was greeting a family friend. Oh, Melvin, her skin. Mommy said her mother's father's people had bad skin. A friend's mother squeezed my pimples for half an hour, leaving me with many guys leaking blood, pus, scars. My first boyfriend of 14, the one who couldn't believe a virgin like me could kiss so well, backed away from me when his friend said, the only thing that's wrong with that girl is her face. There are no pretty girls in your class, my clear-skinned cousin once said. My next boyfriend, those girls at the Rucker are bad. Sorry, you couldn't compete with them. Fed up with my longing and mirrors, Daddy threw away my Fruit Loops, lost it when I complained. If you didn't eat that stuff, you'd be better looking. A doctor promised my skin would clear up pretty if I ate fresh-cut pineapple. Physoderm, Clearasil, Certain America's wash and toner that Daddy used to sell and gave to me. Noxzema, apricot scrub, lemon and egg, clay facial mask, squeezed but never quite shrunk my pores. Ambi ads with flawless brown women in Essence magazine. Fortitude, used it a few times but feared uneven discoloration. My face healed in my 20s, but still bore the scars. Foundation felt like smeared butter across my face, so I kept it nude. Just arched my brows with a brush and a little color on my lips. A bunch of us were playing a game once. The card read, what would you change if you could? I think I said wearing glasses. My friend said, I thought you'd say your skin. In front of her friends, her man, no one came to my defense, not even me. Damn this bad skin. Some have tattooed teardrops on their faces to call out their pain. In my 30s, some of my popping melanocytes loitered right above my cheekbones. Black moles, like my mother and grandmother had, grew too close to my eyes to be removed. Arrayed themselves like teardrops. The biggest two underneath my left eye, miniature lava rocks. Maybe each mole is someone I've lost, I won't count them. I can't think about who, what else I may lose. Death comes for us all, but don't tell me when or how. Was thankful for cell phone cameras. If I had to be photographed, I knew best how to capture myself under soft, white, 40-watt light. My almond eyes and smile glimmering like sunlight on a lake at high noon. And my skin is clear, smooth, medium brown. But there is something about 40 and fuck it. Another man who wanted a gem on his arm lost me. In my moving on, I rediscovered poetry, learned how to dance. In those colliginous lounges and nightclubs, people took pictures with me in them, my smile glimmering, a stunner made of stardust, like my mother and grandmother and her father's people. I bathed my face with black soap and water. They do quiet work across my forehead, temples, and cheeks. There are still scars, but now that I know of Olagoon and the ocean, how they protect the sons and daughters of the motherland that were tossed overboard, and the brave ones who couldn't swim all the way back to our shores, I think of my skin like the ocean floor with its seamounts and guyouts. I too am deep, often silent, not easily knowable. I have stopped trying to smother and strangle my moles, my rocks of lava. Who will buy lava rock jewelry to possess the fire, the strength, the courage that naturally sits beneath my eyes? No more running from dim light. I and the best kind of people don't need soft 40-watt white light to see my beauty. My man asked me for the privilege of photographing me. I stood before him wearing nothing but cowrie shell earrings and ruby red lipstick. He dipped a brush into a bottle of golden glitter, anointed me forehead to cheek, cheek to shoulder, areola to navel to knees to toes. In front of his black satin backdrop, he had me gazing, grinning, spinning in half circles, sucking in nothing. Oh yeah, just like that. After he uploaded the pictures onto my computer, I closed my door, turned off the lights to look at the unretouched proofs. Saw a stunner made of stardust, the surface of my face like the ocean floor, beauty in dim light, my skin, this badass skin. And for my last poem, it's called Pass It On. We Black and brown girls should have been commanded to memorize and recite Psalm 139 in Sunday school. And before every sundown, stomp our feet, clap our hands, all praises due to God. I'm fearfully, wonderfully made. Thank you.
My gosh, a stunner made of stardust. Wow. You know, I hear things, poems, obviously a lot of poetry. Powerful story of how one lives within one's skin was not lost on me in that poem. I'm really grateful to have heard the poetry from your latest collection. And as I said, I'm not telling that story in that poem. Wow. A stunner for sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Carla Cherry. We'll see you soon, I hope, reading with us again. And I want to, before I make our final announcements, how about we unmute and give a big round for our 4 poets and their new books. Tamara J. Madison, Mike Jurkovic. Yes, Kim, there you are. And Irish Gersh and Carla Cherry. Thanks to the 4 of you. What a carnival of poetry today. I love the strange alchemy that gets created with these new book showcases. And I'm really grateful to all of you for coming out today, reading, sharing with us from all over the country in our new books showcase. And I'm really grateful to our audience here in Zoom, those of you watching live on Facebook, and the many, 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 many of you that will be watching and listening at your leisure on the video. Well, my friends, we have, we're here on this Super Sunday, and I want to give a big super duper shout out and thanks to Don Krieger, with whom none of this is ever possible. So thank you, Don, as always. That's right. A big round of applause for Don. And as well as my sister, co-founder of Cultivating Voices, Elizabeth Ann. And a reminder to please, please, please join us next week. Maybe Kim, you can queue up the Laureate Love Fest in the chat for a minute, a link. Our very special month of poetry continues next week on Valentine's Day, Sunday, February 14th, with our Laureate Love Fest, co-sponsored with the Olympia Poetry Network and St. Martin's University, with poets laureate from Canada, Ireland, and all across the United States, with special guest video Valentines from U.S. Poets Laureate Ted Kuzer and Joy Harjo. You can register for this live poetry webinar in advance through the Olympia Poetry Network's webpage or through Cultivating Voices live poetry event page on Facebook. Well, in 2 weeks, my friends, we're back on Sunday, February 21st, with our new book showcase with Marcella Raymond, Colleen Shoshana McKee, Lauren Camp, another of your friends over there in New Mexico, Iris. She's over in Santa Fe. And yeah, and Pratima Veronica Castle will be joining us from the UK. So I hope you'll join me on the 21st. And finally, we'll end the month on the 28th of February, Sunday, with our live poetry open mic. We're going to be celebrating Black Lives Matter and Black History Month. More details to follow on that. I hope you'll all come back and participate in that as well. Well, that's it for tonight, my friends. For today, tonight, the morning, wherever you are. I will be back next Sunday with y'all for our Laureate Love Fest. It's going to be lovely. What can I say? I look forward to bringing you more poetry from around the world, from my seaside nook here in Old Sanford, Connecticut. This is Sandy Yannone saying, ahoy, my friends. Safe travels.
Take care.
Good night. I gotta run. Okay, bye-bye. Stay safe.